All right, we're live. This is Robert Plank from podcastcrusher.com, and a really quick and easy way if you want to opt into some more updates from live streams and stuff like that is robertplank.io, and I'll put a quick type in the address.
A really quick and easy way if you want to opt in.
Type in the address for that in the comments, robertplank.io. And I just want to really touch base with you really quick and explain to you that it's really important that you keep in mind the difference between experimenting and scaling, because you have people who get caught up in a couple of different ways. They get caught up because they say, I want to have the best podcast ever. I want to have 1 million episodes. I want to have all this stuff set up. And then the thought of having 100, 500, 5,000 episodes prevents them from even creating one episode, right? Or people say, well, I'm just humble little old me, and what do I have to do making my podcast? And my advice to you is just to create one episode. Just create one quick recording, get one quick thing set up. It doesn't matter your audio quality. It doesn't matter if you have video or not. I'm still working my way up to having video, and you don't want to have the bad quality forever, right? You don't want to have the awkward podcasting information forever, but people want to hear about you. People want to hear about the books that you have, the courses you have, your websites, what you have going on, about your struggles. And it's a great way for you to get some of your material figured out and figure out what it is that you want to say, what it is that your story is, what it is that you want to get the kinks worked out and get the information just kind of fine-tuned there. And what you do is create that first episode, get that recording. Our podcastcrusher.com course shows you how to get your podcast set up on iTunes, on the Google Play Store, on a couple of other places. And then you can put out different things and see what sorts of results you end up getting. And then you can scale. So you start off with the experimenting phase where you try things out, you play around, and then you get, once you get a handle on how to record, how to publish, how to get a few episodes on there, then you can move up to the next step of having some guests on your show, and then you can move up to, and now you can get ahead of the schedule, and you can have so many episodes coming out on a timer that you can then focus on the marketing, on getting the word out there and getting people to pay attention to it. And so, for example, I'm about to hop off on another podcast interview. We can see here that I've done 4 today. I'm about to hop off on call number 5. So that way I have 5 new friends in a marketing space, right? 5 new people I'm interviewing. And if you want to be on my podcast, on my interview, reach out to me at robertplank@gmail.com, and you can hop on up the podcast if you have an interesting message to say. And if you want to invite me on your show, that's something we can talk about too. So we had 5 podcast interviews today and then 2 tomorrow because I'm looking to get ahead of the schedule. And don't fall into the trap of thinking that anything you do has to be forever, that anything you do has to be a daily or a weekly chore. You can put the pedal to the metal for a little while and record a lot of content ahead of time and then put it on the schedule, space it out, and no one has to know your dirty little secret that you did a bunch of podcast interviews in a day and then they played out for another month or for 6 months. Like I have a podcasting client right now who is thrilled, overjoyed that all the content that she's been recording these last couple of weeks is enough to play out past September. So between now and September, she can focus on other things, or we can focus on just getting attention to the podcast episodes that are out there. Don't fall into that trap of being the person that is always scrambling to create content that no one is going to see. Put it out there, and some people are going to see some of it won't. Some of it's going to be floods of viewers, but there won't always be home runs. But it's important that you do something to at least appear consistent on the outside. That way you can get that flow of traffic and leads that you want. So we have 5 episodes right now here, and then 2 tomorrow. And then you might be thinking, okay, well, great. Well, what about listeners? What about traffic? Well, this podcast that I have, and we'll see what we can fit into the screen because I forgot to size my screen down, but the show goes on. So we're almost at 300,000 listens on the podcast over what amount of time, over how many years. You know what? Nobody cares. Nobody cares how long it took to get the number of listens you got on your podcast, but they do care on that total number. And you know what the secret is too? Some of these huge mega podcasters, I admit that I'm jealous of some of them, the ones that get millions and millions of views per month, the ones that sneeze and suddenly they have 500 comments on a post, you don't see the amount of ad budget they have to keep piling in there again and again in order to get those huge numbers out there. They don't tell you that they paid $20,000 for a podcast sponsorship here, $30,000 for a podcast sponsorship there. So give yourself a little bit of a break if you're not getting a flood, a hurricane's worth of traffic. But it's important that you create something out there, put something out there, right? You're not going to get traffic if nothing's set up, and that you at least be somewhat consistent with what it is that you put out there. And that can just mean that you commit to making a handful of podcast episodes and then take a break. That can mean that you space out your episodes once a week or once a month, but give yourself a break. What's up, Adam homie? If you don't get huge amounts of traffic. And so just to share you some of my numbers, I'm not being super braggy. These aren't super huge numbers, but last week we had 1,100 downloads in one day. And what's really great about getting your podcast up and running is that you can get to the point where you can look at some of these stats and you can do some of these cool things like sort by the most popular podcast. And see, what's a real bummer about this platform I'm using, Libsyn, is they messed up their stats, or they somehow had to start over. And it's like, come on guys, combine the old stats with the new ones. I want to see what my numbers are. So at some point, all of these 200,000 downloads, they just said, okay, you had 200,000 downloads. We're not going to give you more details than that. And there were a couple of these podcast episodes that had 2,000 or 3,000 listens. But still, this is okay because this is the more recent reporting, right? This is the last year and a half. But what this tells me is that this list of people, these are people I should really be buddying up to for one reason or another, right? Either they have traffic that I can hook into, like maybe we can get some kind of joint venture sort of thing going. I can promote their product, they can promote my product. Or maybe some of these people like Dane Scott or Jason Capital or Bryce Conway, maybe I'm out of their league, right? Maybe their following is huge compared to mine. Maybe they're running all kinds of ads for our episodes compared to mine, but that still means that I still benefit from that, and it still means that it's a very good thing that I associated myself with that person while they were on the way up, while they were still getting their traffic and their branding and their company figured out. And some of these people who have generated hundreds and hundreds of listens on their podcast episode, maybe there's someone to now pay attention to or circle back to, because either they sent a lot of traffic from their own following, or their message was something that was highly searched on, and it's worth us revisiting that topic or see what they have going on nowadays again. And what's also really interesting is that, so I know that some of these, I know that like Rocco Balsadare sent a lot of traffic. So I know that's the reason why we have a high number on that. But then I also know that a couple of these podcasts, like this is where I interviewed my business partner, Lance Tamashiro, I think this might be in his follow-up sequence, or I think this might be on just a really hot searched for term. And then we have some people like this guy, Bentley Michaels. He's one of our students, one of our case studies, one of our success stories. So he's someone worth circling back to and saying, hey, you know that we got a few hundred people listening to our interview talking about your results. Let's revisit some stuff. And so what's really cool about having your stats built up is you can just know where you're at. You can know who's listening. You can know how many people are hopping on. And then sometimes when you have these spikes in traffic, you can unpack this specific day, and we can say, well, we have this spike in traffic of 564 listens, and this means that there are 564 different episodes of my podcast were listened to, maybe somewhat, but probably all the way. A lot of podcasters listen to most of what you put out there, and I can see that. So what's really encouraging is that in any given day, I can see that a lot of my episodes have like one listens or some have a handful, but I know that I have all kinds of people listening to my podcast from all sorts of different sources every single day. And we know that in particular, we had like 500 plus, but we know that Melinda Kelly's episode, which was new, got a lot of listens. And we can look at on this some of these days when there's the really big spikes. So when we had 600 listens, we can sort this. We can say, okay, well, this was sort of all across the board, right? And we can say on this one, there's a lot of listens. And okay, again, a lot across the board. So in these cases, it was just a lot of people checking out the episodes that we have. But we can play around with some of these stats and figure out some of these things. Figure out who are our hot guests that we want to invite back. Who are the people that are more promising leads that we want to buddy up to? Who can we circle back around to and say, hey, you know what? You are one of my favorite guests on this show. Check out how many downloads you got. How would you like to come back? Because we know that for whatever reason, maybe we can do some more investigating into that, but for whatever reason, having that person on our show gave us a lot more listens. And I'm not one to be super braggy about all my downloads or all my episodes, but there's no possible way I would have been able to come out with hundreds and hundreds of episodes if it was just me. I would have ran out of stuff to say in my brain. So you need to get more people involved with you and your business. You need to get more people hopping on your podcast because they're going to cover areas where you don't have, there's no possible way that you have expertise in every single possible facet of your life. Like today I spoke to a LinkedIn expert, a Facebook ads expert, a direct mail expert, and about to speak with some sort of a retired basketball player. So I'll let you know what that's all about. But all these people with all their expertise with the way Facebook changes all the time, with this one guy had 15 years of direct mail experience, there's no way that you on your own have all this knowledge, so you need to get more people on your show. How do you do it? You need to set up a show, you need to experiment and then scale, but don't put the cart before the horse. Just do anything that moves your business forward today. And if you don't know what that thing is, then my answer to you is create a podcast, and that is podcastcrusher.com. And the place to opt into me and my chatbot to notify you of future streams is robertplank.io. But I hope that was encouraging because, early on for me, when I saw people post their calendars and post the meetings they had coming up, it was really helpful for me to say, okay, I need to be upping my game, and just psyching myself up to record 5 minutes this month might not cut it. Just sending out a couple of emails this month to some prospective joint venture partners might not cut it. I need to get with the program. I need to get with the current present day and create a podcast, get people on my podcast, hop on other podcast shows. That's just the way things are going. So Robert Plank, podcastcrusher.com, and we'll see you in there, and bye now.